It was supposed to be just another ordinary evening. I had no expectations, no plans, and absolutely no desire to talk to anyone. Work had drained every ounce of energy out of me, and I just wanted to sit in a corner, sip a drink, and forget the world for a few hours. The club was loud, as always, neon lights, pulsing beats, people dancing like they had nothing to lose. I felt out of place, yet weirdly comforted by the chaos. I found a seat near the bar, ordered a whiskey, neat, and leaned back, letting the burn calm something deep inside me. And then I saw her. She didn't walk in like she owned the place, but somehow the air around her shifted. She was effortlessly beautiful. Long, dark hair cascading over her shoulders, pale skin that almost glowed under the colored lights, and eyes. God, those eyes, that seemed to carry storms and stories I would never be able to read. She wasn't trying to stand out. She just did. And I, like the idiot I sometimes am, couldn't stop staring. Of course, I didn't think I had a chance. Girls like that don't look twice at guys like me. Tired eyes, worn-out button-up shirt. The smell of deadlines and broken printers still lingering on me from work. But I watched her from time to time, hoping she wouldn't notice. She did. I don't know how long it had been, 20 minutes? 30? When I looked up and saw her staring back. Not just a glance. A look. It hit me like cold water. I quickly looked away, embarrassed. Heart suddenly racing like I'd been caught stealing something. I turned back to my drink, hoping to disappear into it. But a few minutes later, I heard a soft voice behind me. "Hey, how's your night going?" I froze. I turned around slowly, fully expecting that voice to be directed at someone else. But there she was, standing right in front of me, smiling. Her voice was calm, confident, and slightly curious, like she already knew I'd be interesting. Good," I stammered. "I mean, just long day. Needed a break." She tilted her head slightly, still smiling. "Yeah, same here. Mind if I sit?" What was I going to say? No? We talked for 5 hours. I don't remember all of it. I remember laughing. I remember her eyes lighting up when she talked about places she'd been. I remember how she played with the edge of her glass when she was thinking. She told me she worked in marketing, traveled a lot, had just come back from some conference in Spain. She had a name, too. Elena. It fit her. Elegant, yet grounded. But there was one thing I couldn't help noticing. She kept disappearing. Every 30 or 40 minutes. She would excuse herself, sometimes to take a call, sometimes saying she needed air. Each time she came back, it was like nothing had happened. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe she had anxiety. Maybe she was checking in with friends. Maybe it wasn't my business. By the time we left the club, the sky was turning a soft gray. Morning was creeping up on us. She gave me her number before we said goodbye. I asked if I could call her sometime, and she smiled. "I hope you do." And I did. After that night in the club, I couldn't get her out of my head. Elena wasn't just beautiful. She had something about her, something that lingered. Maybe it was the way she listened, like every word I said mattered, or the way she laughed, not loud, not fake, but real, from somewhere deep. I kept replaying those 5 hours in my mind like a favorite song on repeat. I waited 2 days before calling her. I didn't want to seem too eager, even though I was checking my phone every 10 minutes like a teenager. When she picked up, her voice was warm, familiar. "Took you long enough," she teased. I laughed, nervous again. Didn't want to scare you off. We talked for almost an hour that night, then again the next night, and again after that. It became our thing, late-night calls, sometimes until we both fell asleep mid-sentence. I learned about her favorite movies, the tea she liked to drink before bed, how she hated mornings, and how she once went skydiving just to conquer her fear of heights. I told her about my job, my terrible cooking skills, my failed attempt at learning guitar. And yet, she never talked about her family, or where exactly she lived, or whether she was seeing someone before me. I noticed it. Of course, I'm not an idiot. But when you're falling, you choose what to see. And I was falling fast. A week later, we finally made plans to see each other again. Nothing fancy, just a walk through the city park in the evening. She said she needed something calm, something away from people and noise. That sounded perfect to me. I remember standing near the fountain, trying not to look like I'd been there for 20 minutes already. When she arrived, wearing a simple black coat and her hair pulled back, I swear she looked even more stunning than that night in the club. She smiled when she saw me, and in that moment, it felt like the world got quieter. We walked. We talked about stupid things, whether favorite food, how weird squirrels are. She liked silence. She said, "Comfortable silence." I liked that too. It felt like we didn't need to force anything. Being next to her was enough. Then, somewhere near the edge of the park, under a street lamp, she stopped. "I need to tell you something," she said. I turned to face her, heart beating a little faster. "I'm not looking for anything serious right now," she said quietly. I want to be honest with you. I really like talking to you, being with you, but I'm not ready for anything heavy. Not yet." My heart sank a little. I nodded, trying not to show disappointment. "Okay," I said. "No pressure. I'm just glad we met." She looked at me for a long time. Her eyes were searching mine, like she was trying to figure out if I meant it. I did. Or at least, I wanted to. That night ended with a quiet goodbye and a soft touch of her hand on mine. No kiss, no promises. Just something unspoken lingering between us. Over the next few weeks, we kept seeing each other, sporadically. She was always busy, often away on business trips. She said she worked in marketing, had to fly a lot, meet clients, attend seminars. I never asked for details. I didn't want to seem controlling, but something always felt slightly off. Sometimes she'd stay over at my place. We'd cook together, laugh, watch old movies. She had a way of making my empty apartment feel warmer, more alive. I started leaving a toothbrush for her, stocking her favorite tea, learning how she liked her eggs. One morning, as she was putting on her coat to leave, I said it, just blurted it out. "Why don't you move in?" She froze, smiled, then laughed lightly, brushing her hair behind her ear. "That's sweet," she said, "but I don't think I'm ready for that." That was all. No further explanation. And I didn't push. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, something heavy sat in my chest. I was happy with her. At least, I thought I was. But I didn't understand what we were. She'd become a part of my life. And yet I felt like I still knew so little about hers. Still, I kept telling myself it was okay. She just needed time. I could wait, because when she was there, everything felt right. Even if I only had a small piece of her, it was enough. For now. They say love makes you blind. I never thought that would be me. I always prided myself on being logical, grounded, someone who didn't let emotions cloud his judgment. But with Elena, I was someone else. I didn't just see what I wanted. I ignored everything else. It started with the little things. Always the little things. Her phone, for example. She never left it lying around. Never face up. It was always either in her bag or in her pocket. Once, when we were watching a movie, it buzzed. She grabbed it so quickly it was almost a reflex. I didn't say anything, just smiled and turned back to the screen, pretending I didn't notice. Then there were the disappearances. She'd excuse herself to the bathroom during dinner and come back 10 minutes later, or step out for a call when we were in the middle of a conversation. I told myself it was work. She was in marketing. After all, maybe her clients were demanding. Maybe her boss was an asshole. Maybe I was making excuses. But I didn't want to ruin it by being paranoid. I liked what we had, or at least what I thought we had. And besides, when we were together, it felt real. She laughed at my dumb jokes, stole my fries when she thought I wasn't looking, wore my shirts around the apartment like she belonged here. Still, that strange feeling wouldn't go away. One night, she left her laptop open while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. But the screen was on, and I saw a name pop up on a messaging app one didn't recognize. Just a notification. Dee sent a message. That was it. No content. Just a letter. I should have ignored it. I should have looked away. But something tightened in my chest. I stared at it like it was some kind of code I couldn't crack. When she came back out, wrapped in my towel, smiling like nothing was wrong, I smiled too. I kissed her, but my thoughts were elsewhere. After she fell asleep, curled up on my chest, I stayed awake for hours, my mind racing with questions I didn't want to ask out loud. Who was Dee? Why did she never mention her friends? Why did I know nothing about her past? The next morning, she kissed me goodbye and said she was flying Berlin for a client pitch. I offered to drop her off at the airport, but she declined. Said she already had a cab scheduled. It was easier that way. I watched her leave from my window. Her coat was buttoned up, suitcase rolling behind her, her head down. And that was when something inside me cracked. It wasn't just worry anymore. It was a cold knot of suspicion that had finally taken root. I waited an hour. Then I called her. The line rang, then went straight to voicemail. Another hour passed. I checked her socials. Nothing new. I sent her a message. No reply. By evening, I was pacing. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I opened my laptop and searched for flights to Berlin. I wanted to know if any flights had even taken off that matched her timeline. The results were confusing. Nothing quite fit. Nothing aligned. And that's when a thought hit me. What if she never left the city? I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I took a long walk. No destination, just movement. I thought maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I was just scared of getting too close to someone again. I'd been burned before. Maybe I was sabotaging something good out of fear. But then, 2 days later, I saw her. Not in Berlin. Not in some Zoom call with a client. I saw her here, across the street from my office. She didn't see me. She was walking with a man. Tall, broad shoulders, confident stride. They weren't holding hands, but their body language said more than their distance. She was laughing at something he said, tossing her hair the way she did when she wanted someone's attention. I stopped breathing. My first instinct was to run over, confront her, demand an explanation. But I didn't. I stood frozen, him behind a glass door of a coffee shop, watching the woman I thought I knew walk away with a stranger. That night, I didn't answer her call. She left a voicemail. Hey, just landed. Berlin was exhausting. I miss you. Can't wait to see you soon. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to that voice that used to bring me comfort. Now it just made my skin crawl. She was lying to me, boldly, effortlessly. But why? I didn't sleep. Again, the next day, I called her and asked to meet. She agreed without hesitation. We met at the same rooftop, where I had once planned to surprise her with dinner, where I had imagined asking her to stay, maybe even imagined more. When she arrived, she hugged me like nothing was wrong. And for a second, I wanted to believe her again, to pretend the last 48 hours never happened. But I couldn't. Were you really in Berlin? I asked. She blinked. Of course. I saw you, I said. She went pale. With someone near my office. There was a pause, a long one. Then she smiled. Oh, that wasn't what it looked like. I didn't respond. I just looked at her, waiting. I wanted the truth. All of it. Elena, I said quietly, are you hiding something from me? She looked away. And for the first time since I met her, she stood across from me, scared, her arms folded, eyes flicking away every few seconds. The wind played with her hair, tossing across her face, but she made no effort to fix it. The silence between us stretched long and thin, like a thread that could snap at any moment. Elena, I repeated, quieter this time, I need the truth. Her lips parted, then closed again. She looked like she was trying to choose the least painful lie, or maybe the smallest truth. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she whispered. What does that mean? She exhaled slowly and leaned against the railing, her back to the city skyline. You weren't supposed to matter this much, she said. It was just supposed to be casual. I didn't plan to fall for you. Something in my chest twisted. I met you that night because I was running. Not literally, emotionally. I had just gotten into another fight with my husband. I flinched at the word. Hearing out loud made everything more real, more impossible to ignore. I didn't tell you because I thought I was leaving him. I'd already packed a bag. I had a plan. I swear. But then things got messy. He begged me to stay for our child. Said he'd change. Said we'd try therapy. And I didn't know what to do. Wait, I cut in. You have a child? She turned to face me again, tears in her eyes. Yes, a boy. He's 3. I wanted to tell you so many times, but every time I tried, you looked at me like I was your whole world, and I couldn't ruin that. You didn't ruin it by telling the truth. I snapped. You ruined it by lying. She winced. I know. I stepped back, needing space to breathe. So what was I? A distraction? An escape? Some romantic side story while you figure out your real life? No, she said quickly. It wasn't like that. I love being with you. With you I felt seen, safe, like I wasn't drowning. And your husband? He knows about me? She hesitated. No, he doesn't know I've been seeing someone, but he knows I'm not fully present. He senses it. I pressed a hand to my temple, trying to make sense of the spiral I'd been pulled into. So, when you said you were in Berlin, I wasn't. I was with my son. We took a short trip. I needed time to think, to be with him without feeling guilty. And the man I saw you with, my brother, I looked up sharply. Your brother? She nodded, swallowing hard. You don't believe me, I know. And maybe I don't deserve that. But he flew in to help me sort out legal stuff, in case I do go through with a divorce. He's the only one who knows about you. I didn't know whether to feel relief or suspicion. Every answer led to more questions. Every explanation felt half full. She stepped closer, placing a hand over mine. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Not yet. I just want you to know I never meant to hurt you. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the weight she carried. Not just the lies, but the life behind them. I wanted to tell you everything after that rooftop dinner, she whispered. But then you showed me the ring, and I panicked. I wasn't ready. Not because I didn't love you, but because I didn't know how to make you part of the life I've been hiding. My fingers curled against the metal railing. I don't know if I can trust anything you say anymore. I understand, she said, her voice barely audible. But if you give me time, I'll prove it to you. I'll show you everything. No more lies. I turned away. The city lights blurred below us. In another world, this could have been the start of a future. But now it felt like the ashes of something I didn't even know had been burning. She stepped back, sensing that I needed space, and without another word, walked away. And I stood there long after she was gone, wondering if I was still in love with her, or just with the version of her I thought I knew. The night after her confession, I barely slept. My mind refused to settle, running loops of every word, every pause, every glance she'd ever given me. Was she really telling the truth now? Or just another carefully rehearsed version of it? I kept replaying the rooftop evening in my head. The way her eyes widened when I showed her the ring. Was that fear or guilt? Had I been too blind to see the cracks? The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, nursing a coffee I didn't even taste. Her voice echoed in my head. You weren't supposed to matter this much. Then why did she let me matter? I opened my laptop. For the first time since we'd met, I typed her full name into the search bar. Elena Moreau. It sounded exotic, like something out of a movie. Too perfect, maybe. But what came up surprised me. Almost nothing. A few outdated LinkedIn profiles. A marketing agency that listed her as associate consultant 5 years ago. No current contact info. No social media. No photos tagged. No mentions. She was almost invisible. In today's world, that's not mysterious. It's suspicious. I opened our chat history on my phone. I scrolled up through months of late-night talks, voice notes, photos of coffees, her shoes in hotel lobbies, glimpses of skies she claimed were Paris, Berlin, Prague. But looking at them now, I realized something. None of the photos had her in them. Not one. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The chill of the air was bracing. I needed to walk, to clear my head. As I wandered aimlessly through the city, I remembered something odd from a few weeks back. One night, she was at my place, and her phone lit up while she was in the shower. A name I didn't recognize flashed. AR, followed by a heart emoji. When I casually asked her who it was, she laughed and said it was an old friend from uni. Back then, I didn't question it. I trusted her. Now, I wasn't so sure. I opened our last conversation. She hadn't messaged me since walking away from the rooftop. I sent a simple text. We need to talk. More than just the surface. No reply. I spent the next few hours digging. Through my memories. Through every time she'd left town. I checked flight records, train times, even tried to remember license plates on the cars she used when she claimed she rented one. Everything felt like a puzzle where half the pieces were from another box. And then it hit me. The receipts. She always paid in cash. Restaurants, groceries, even hotel bookings. I never saw her use a credit card. I used to think it was just personal habit. Now it felt like deliberate camouflage. Why would someone live that secretly? By evening, I found myself parked outside an apartment building she once mentioned casually. Just once, in a story about a friend dropping off her son. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. But now, I waited and waited. Around 7:15 p.m., she appeared, holding the hand of a little boy. He looked just like her. Pale skin, dark curls, wide eyes full of curiosity. Her son. She bent to kiss his cheek, then hugged an older woman goodbye. Maybe her mother, maybe the child's caretaker. I didn't know, but I couldn't stop watching. There she was, in a world I wasn't part of. A life she never wanted me to see. She didn't notice me. I stayed in the shadows, hidden by the hum of the street. I felt like a stranger in her story, a secret lover peeking through a window into a life that never had room for him. And yet, I didn't feel anger. Not fully. I felt something deeper, a kind of grief, not for what I lost, but for what was never truly mine. When I finally got home, I sat down and stared at the wall for a long time. My phone buzzed. Elena, I miss you. Please don't hate me. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because I no longer knew who I was talking to. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, and that little boy, with her eyes and his quiet smile. How long had she been lying? Was I just some side story to a life she never intended to leave behind? By morning, the ache in my chest had settled into something sharper. Purpose. I needed to know everything. No more wondering. No more forgiving the shadows. I started where I could, the apartment building. I drove back, parked down the street again. Waited. Watched. At exactly 8:23 a.m., she left the building alone. Hair tied up, no makeup, in jeans and a long coat. Not the Elena I knew. The effortless, elegant version of her. This was someone else. A woman balancing two worlds. When she disappeared around the corner, I made my move. I crossed the street, buzzed a third name on the intercom, A. Rockefort. It buzzed open. No questions asked. The hall smelled faintly of coffee and laundry detergent. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, paused at the door with the same name. I hesitated. What was I doing? Then I knocked. The door opened slowly. A man stood there. Early 40s, maybe. Disheveled hair, stubble, dark circles under his eyes. He looked surprised, but not threatened. Yes. I swallowed. I'm looking for Elena. His expression hardened instantly. A flash of recognition, then something colder. And you are... I didn't know how to answer. A friend? A lover? A fool? I'm just someone who needs the truth. He studied me for a moment, then stepped back. Come in. The apartment was quiet. Minimal. Toys in the corner of the living room. A small photo of Elena with the boy on a shelf. Nothing else of her. She doesn't live here, he said, pouring himself coffee. But she comes by sometimes. To see our son. I nodded. She told me she was divorced. He laughed, a short, bitter sound. Did she also tell you she worked in Paris? That she was always flying for work? I looked up sharply. Yes. He shook his head. She's not in marketing. She hasn't worked a real job in years. She tells people what they want to hear. She's good at that. I felt the floor shift under me. Why are you still married? I asked, Because she never signed the papers, he said quietly. And maybe because a part of me didn't want her to, even after everything. I didn't know what to say. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something familiar in his eyes. Pain. Not anger. Not hatred. Just a man who had once loved someone who didn't know how to love back in the same way. She leaves pieces of herself with everyone, he said, but never the whole thing. I stood, suddenly needing air. I'm sorry for showing up like this. He nodded. I've been where you are. Just don't stay there too long. On the drive home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just stepped into someone else's unfinished chapter. And I wasn't the first, maybe not even the 10th. I opened my messages again. Her last text stared back at me. Please don't hate me. And yet, she never offered the truth. Not until it bled out on its own. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new message. Typed slowly. I met your husband. I know everything. And I hit send. A minute passed. Then 5. Then my phone buzzed. Elena, I can explain. Please, just meet me. One last time. I stared at the screen. One last time? Was I ready for that? Or was this just the next lie waiting to be unwrapped? I lay on my bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling as if it had something to tell me. Something Elena couldn't. The silence of my apartment, once a comfort, now felt cavernous. Every corner seemed to echo with memories of her. Her laugh in the kitchen. Her humming when she thought I wasn't listening. Her perfume clinging to my pillows like a ghost that refused to leave. And yet, despite the ache, I didn't cry. There was nothing left to mourn. What we had wasn't real. It had been a well-crafted illusion, one I willingly walked into, blindfolded, because I wanted it to be true. I had fallen for a dream, and she had let me. But the thing about dreams is they end. The next morning, I called in sick. Not because I was physically unwell, but because I couldn't bear to walk through the motions of a life that had quietly begun to fall apart. I made coffee, poured it, then let it go cold. I stared out the window, the city buzzing as usual, indifferent to my unraveling. Around noon, I got a message. You deserve to know everything. I wrote it all down. If you want it, it's yours. I left it in the park. Our spot. The irony almost made me laugh. A bench beneath a crooked tree in the middle of Saintwood Park, a place that had once meant possibility. I didn't reply, but I went. The sky was gray when I arrived. Rain hovered in the air like a threat, and the breeze carried the scent of wet earth. I walked slowly, half expecting her to be there despite the message, but she wasn't. Instead, on the bench, sat a weathered manila envelope with my name written in neat, careful script. I stared at it for a while, as if it might explode. Then I picked it up and sat down. Inside were pages. Dozens of them. Her handwriting. Her story. Her truth. I didn't read it there. Not yet. I walked back home, envelope clutched in my hands like a fragile artifact. Once inside, I sat at the kitchen table and unfolded the first page. And I read, she told me everything. How the marriage wasn't love but survival. An arrangement formed in the wake of chaos. How he had saved her once, years ago, when she had nothing, no one. How she had stayed because she felt she owed him. Because she believed loyalty could replace love if you tried hard enough. But then I came along. She wrote about the guilt, the confusion, the nights she lay awake beside someone who no longer knew her, thinking about the conversations she had with me, the way I looked at her, the way I made her feel like a person again, not just someone's wife, someone's mother. I learned about the child, too. A boy, 5 years old. He was her heart, she wrote, and the only reason she kept pretending for so long. I didn't mean to fall for you, she wrote in one of the final pages. But I did. And once I did, I didn't know how to let go. I didn't want to. The words stung. Not because they were cruel, but because they weren't. They were real, human, raw. It would have been easier if she'd been a monster. But she wasn't. She was a woman caught between duty and desire, guilt and longing. And that's what made it so much harder. After I finished reading, I sat in silence. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't even breathe for a few seconds. My world, once so black and white, had taken on shades I didn't know how to name. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. I wanted to forgive her, but I wasn't ready. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I put everything away. The pages, the memories, the ache. I packed them up and placed them in the back of my closet, behind old winter clothes and forgotten photo albums. Out of sight, not out of mind, but out of reach. Weeks passed. Life, as it always does, kept moving. I went back to work. I smiled when I needed to. I answered questions with just enough truth to seem whole. And slowly, something shifted. One evening, I found myself back at the park. The same bench, the same tree. A little boy was there with his father, chasing pigeons in circles, laughing, innocent, unaware of the world's complexities. I watched him for a while, wondering if he might be her son, wondering if I'd ever see her again. I never did, but one day a letter arrived. No return address, just a single sentence on a blank card. Thank you for loving the version of me I couldn't. No signature, no date, but I knew. Time did what it was supposed to. It softened the edges. It didn't erase her or the pain, but it made room for other things. New people, new conversations, new mornings that didn't begin and end with thoughts of her. I met someone months later. Her name was Isabel. She laughed too loud and always left her tea bags in the sink. But she was honest, real, and she didn't try to be perfect. When I told her my story about Elena, about everything, she didn't flinch. She just listened. Then she said, "You know, sometimes people enter our lives to teach us what not to settle for." And I believed her. Sometimes I still dream of Elena, not the way she was at the end, but how she was in the beginning, on rooftops, in cafes, her eyes full of something I wanted so badly to believe in. But when I wake up, I no longer feel the weight of loss. I feel something else. Closure. Not the kind that comes from apologies or explanations, but the kind you give yourself quietly when no one is watching. Because the truth is, not all stories are meant to be finished together. Some are meant to end, so that others can begin. It started with a phone call. I was in the middle of making dinner with Isabel, music playing softly, a glass of red wine balanced in her hand, when my phone buzzed across the counter. A known number. I hesitated, staring at it. "Don't," Isabel said gently. She'd seen this look before. She knew what it meant, but I answered anyway. There was a pause, a breath, then a voice I hadn't heard in months. "Don't hang up," it whispered. "Elena." My grip tightened around the phone. The world around me seemed to blur. Isabel, the music, the scent of garlic and pan. It all faded into the background. "You have 60 seconds. I said, my voice cold, steady. "I don't know who else to call," she breathed. "They're watching me, listening. Please." The line cut off. Silence. I stood there, frozen, the air suddenly heavy. "What happened?" Isabel asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The next day, I told myself it was nothing. A trick, a lie, maybe a pathetic attempt to crawl back into my life. But something didn't feel right. Her voice, shaky, terrified, wasn't the Elena I knew, or thought I knew. I couldn't ignore it. So I did something I promised myself I never would. I looked for her. Her apartment was empty. The mailbox overflowed with unopened letters. The name tag on the door was gone. When I asked the landlord, he frowned. She left 2 weeks ago. No notice. No forwarding address. Just vanished. I should have walked away. I almost did. But then I remembered the envelope she gave me, the one with her confession. I hadn't read every word back then. I couldn't. That night, I opened again. Tucked in the back, folded tightly, was a smaller note, different handwriting, a name I didn't recognize. "If anything happens, find Marcus Vale." I didn't sleep. I spent the next day tracking the name. He was a private investigator. Used to work corporate cases. Then he vanished from public records a few years ago. Rumors of blackmail. Surveillance jobs gone wrong. Nothing concrete. But I found an address. A warehouse outside the city. The place was run down, abandoned, but someone had been there recently. Fresh tire marks in the dirt, a cigarette still smoldering near the steps. I knocked once, twice, no answer. Then I pushed the door open. Inside, it was dark, the smell of oil and rust thick in the air. "Who the hell are you?" A voice barked from the shadows. He stepped out, early 40s, rugged, eyes like steel. "Marcus." I asked. He didn't answer, just stared. "I'm looking for Elena." That got his attention. He motioned for me to follow. His office, if you could call it that, was cluttered with files, maps, photos. In the center of the desk, a surveillance shot of Elena. She was standing at a cafe, holding the hand of a young boy. Her eyes darted to the side, anxious. "She contacted you, didn't she?" Marcus said. "Figured she might." "What's going on?" I demanded. He lit a cigarette. "You think she lied to you? That she broke your heart? You think that's the story? Isn't it?" He exhaled smoke, slow and bitter. "She was running. From her husband. From his people. You ever wonder how she could afford those trips, that lifestyle? It wasn't her money. It was his. And he made her pay for every cent with silence." I felt my stomach drop. "He's not some banker or artist, like she said." Marcus went on. "He runs laundering through fake charities, off-the-books real estate deals. She found out, tried to leave. That's when the accident started." My mouth was dry. "Why didn't she go to the police?" "She did. They were bought." I sat down, suddenly cold. Everything I thought I knew, it was nothing but surface. "Why come to me?" I asked. "Because you were clean, unconnected. She thought maybe, just maybe, you'd help her disappear." I drove home in silence. Isabel was waiting. She knew something had changed the moment I walked in. "I need to go away for a while." I told her. Her face tightened. "Is it her?" I nodded. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked at me with those steady, brave eyes. "Then go," she said. "But promise me one thing." "What?" "That you're not doing this to save her. You're doing this to save yourself." I found Elena in a motel off a highway 2 towns over. She looked thinner, paler. But when she saw me, something in her eyes flickered, something close to hope. "I told myself you wouldn't come," she said softly. "I told myself I shouldn't," I replied. She looked away. "It's worse than you think." "I know." And then, for the first time, we stopped pretending. We sat down and planned. How to get her out, how to get evidence, how to make the truth louder than the lies. It wasn't easy. It involved burner phones, late-night meetings, hidden cameras, a secret flight to a contact Marcus still trusted in another city. Elena moved like a ghost, always looking over her shoulder. I stayed close, but not too close. And slowly, the picture sharpened. Her husband had more than secrets. He had enemies, people who wanted him exposed, people willing to help. The story wasn't over. It had just changed shape. I don't know where this path ends. Whether Elena will ever truly be free. Whether I'll go back to Isabel. Whether the version of me that loved Elena could ever love again. But I do know this. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who were hurting all along. And sometimes the truth isn't black or white. It's buried deep, in the space between love and survival. The courthouse was colder than I expected. Not physically, it was summer, and the air conditioning barely worked. But cold in a deeper way. Clinical, unforgiving. The kind of place where truths go to die, or get twisted just enough to be unrecognizable. Elena sat beside me, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. She hadn't worn makeup, hadn't tried to dress like someone she wasn't. There was no mask left, no pretense. Just a woman stripped bare by everything she'd run from. Across the room sat him. Her husband. He looked nothing like the photos. In person, his charm didn't hold. The smile was too tight. The eyes too empty. He sat with his lawyer, both pretending this was just business. But it wasn't. Not anymore. It was war. The evidence Marcus helped us collect had made its way to the right people. Offshore accounts. Coded wire transfers. threats, blackmail, a network of men just like him, now scrambling to cover their tracks. But it all started with Elena, with her voice, with her finally saying, "Enough." She testified first. Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't flinch. She told the truth, not the version she used to feed me on balconies or in quiet cafes, but the real one, the ugly one, the one with bruises no one could see, choices she never wanted to make, love she never got to feel. Then I spoke. I told them about the woman I met, the one I fell for, the one who broke me, and the one who, despite it all, deserved to be free. It didn't end in applause. There were no dramatic verdicts or grand takedowns. The wheels of justice turned slowly, gratingly. His lawyers delayed every step. He posted bail, disappeared, but his name was tainted now. The empire he'd built on silence and manipulation was burning. Elena had done what she came to do, and now we had to decide what came next. We stood on a cliffside just outside the city. The wind was loud. The ocean below stretched out like a promise neither of us could read. "I'm leaving," she said softly. I nodded. I already knew. There's a shelter up north. For women like me. They asked me to help. I think I could be useful. "You will be," I said. She turned to look at me. Really look. Her eyes were clearer than I'd ever seen them. "You saved me." "No," I said. "You saved yourself. I just stood in the fire with you." A long pause. Then, "I wish things had been different." "Me too." But wishing doesn't change anything. Only choices do. She kissed me. Just once. Gentle. Not the kiss of a lover. The kiss of a goodbye. Then she walked away. I stood there until her figure disappeared into the distance, swallowed by time, memory, and the quiet freedom she'd finally earned. Months passed. I rebuilt. Slowly. I moved to a smaller place. Went back to photography, my first love, the thing I'd abandoned somewhere in the middle of heartbreak. I started capturing real moments again. Strangers on park benches, sunsets over the river, people laughing when they thought no one was watching. I sent one photo to her. A woman standing alone, face tilted toward the light, eyes closed, smiling at something only she could feel. She never replied. But I didn't need her to, because for the first time in a long, long while, I understood something. Some people come into our lives like fire, beautiful, wild, and dangerous. They burn everything down, including us. But if we're lucky, if we're strong, we rise from it, wiser, warmer, and ready for the light.